All right, welcome back, Go AI listeners. Today we are thrilled to have John Capobianco on the call. John is the head of artificial intelligence and developer relations at Itential, and he's spent decades working on the intersection of IT, government, and enterprise automation, including time as senior network architect for the Parliament of Canada and as a Cisco AI technical leader. And so, John, I'm going to let you tell the audience a little bit more about what you do. And I know one of the things that you're known for that you mentioned earlier is, if you've heard of vibe coding, John is the person who has deemed vibe ops. And he has a funny story about that to share.
Well, Jenna and Connor, thank you for having me. So I'm John Capobianco. My story is out there if you want to find more about me. But for the past few years, I really have been living at the intersection between artificial intelligence and network automation. And it's been an evolution and a revolutionary journey for me. My current focus is really building agentic operations, meaning react agents that can reason and take action, meaning call tools. I love building MCPs. I love evangelizing AI and this new agentic framework that we live in. And in terms of the funny story, my baggage was lost between Cisco Live and AutoCon in Munich. And I still had my trade floor Vibe Ops shirt on that you're going to probably see. Walking the historic streets of Munich, gathering half a dozen to a dozen people in the streets, wondering, what is Vibe Ops? What is vibe coding? What are you talking about? Why are you wearing this shirt? So it was quite the thing, and I should have recorded some of that for the marketing purposes. It was a lot of fun explaining to
We could have linked
locals
it
in
in the show
Munich.
notes.
Oh, LinkedIn would have loved that. Yeah, exactly. Me on the streets of Munich, evangelizing ad hoc AI sermons.
I would have been there cheering you on.
But the last 2 weeks have been incredible. I really feel like we're past the inflection point now. It feels more like, if we want to talk about AI in terms of the 7 stages of grief, I think that we have come to acceptance. And I think some people maybe reluctantly, but the industry as a whole, at least from my perspective, the networking side of things, understands that we can't fall behind like we did with automation for 10 years. We can't miss out on this opportunity that we have with artificial intelligence for infrastructure. I know infrastructure, because it's so critical, and it's a little slower moving, right? We're talking about wires and networks and access, and it touches everything in the network. So maybe rightfully so, it's a little slower to move. But I don't think that this inflection point, it doesn't feel like other inflection point with the network. We see giants like Cisco introducing their agentic platforms. MCP servers have exploded. I think it's table stakes now when you walk around. Every vendor is promoting their adoption of MCP now. And the same was true at the smaller event, the AutoCon event, a more intimate event, but similar stories. All of the vendors there were introducing MCPs and how they're going to be agentic. The important part of all this, were curious, more curious than ever, without sort of the dismissal that I've been experiencing at previous years at some of these events.
Well, and so John, you've identified three major areas, I sense, of effective agentic ops: governance, role-based access control, and reuse. How do you define each of those, and what's the significance of each?
So I think it's some of the non-sexy, flashy stuff about AI, but that's what gets you from a proof of concept or an MVP into production. Production needs extremely high quality governance over these agents. They need to have the role-based access control into what tools and what systems they have, let's say read permission, let's say write permission.
And
Also the auditing, the logging. When did it reason? When did it call a tool? What was its reasoning? Like, it's not just a black box. We can't accept a black box. We need to be able to audit this. And I think that, in terms of a platform, right? I think everyone understands a platform where we can centralize these things so that we avoid agent sprawl. Everyone has their own Python script. John's Python script working version 2_3, right? Jenna's copy of John's working underscore v3, and now we have 2 copies of this agent. Connor gets a copy. Now we have 3 different agents, all with drifting from apart, drifting from intent. Who's got security? Who's got control? We don't want to do this. We've learned that lesson from the automation decade in this industry. There's some real key lessons to be learned that need to be brought forward before we let agents loose on our network, Jenna. So imagine the first day an employee starts in a junior network on my team. The very first thing I do is give them read access and say, go make sure all my documentation is up to date. Right? Like, it's not a very sexy thing, but they have to earn their trust.
Exactly.
They have to earn the ability to do right. They have to ground themselves in what? In the context of my network. All of this is equivalent of an agent now. Can we give it the right context? Can we give it guardrails and permissions and have it earn trust in over time? Maybe it's over a year that agent goes from reading things to writing things and changing things, right?
And to stay on the subject of agent sprawl, I would like to dig a little deeper into how businesses can avoid agent sprawl because, it is the age of, oh, well, agents can do this, that, and the other thing. And so how do business owners kind of stay focused and saying, like, we don't want just too many agents spread across the organization and it gets just too chaotic and hard to track? So what are your tips for kind of sensible agentic implementation within businesses?
So I think that one, having a platform, and obviously I'm here speaking on behalf of Itential, right? But it doesn't have to be Itential's platform. There are platforms, first to centralize your code. Let us, just like we put our Ansible playbooks or our Terraform code or Python scripts, instead of sprawling them in a distributed fashion, ideally they were centralized. So something like a GitHub or a GitLab is a wonderful place to track your agents. And I'm going to tie this back into spec-driven development. If you're using spec-driven development, those agents are built with a process and you get markdown files, user stories, acceptance criteria. So it's easy to share, Connor. When I build John's agent for network troubleshooting and I store it in GitHub as a spec-driven project, you and Jenna can read my specifications. Not just my prompts, not just like, hey, John, what prompt did you use to get this code? It's more holistic. You can actually read my user stories and understand how we got to the agent itself. Now it's centralized and people can clone it and run it locally. And let's say you do, find a new skill you want to add or add a new MCP capability. Well, you're going to make a branch and you're going to push that code back into central so that Jenna and myself can use your code, Connor. Right, so I don't think we need to reinvent some of the ways that we've handled code sprawl. Version and source control. Maybe we need a new term, agent control.
Yeah.
Right, so we've got version and source, and now we need agentic controls, which are like version and source control, but for this agentic code we write.
Well, and so Connor, I love that you stuck to the script sprawl, and I want to come back, bring us back out because some of the terminology, the language that you're using, John, is new language to me within the last couple of years. And now I've been in this, right? But for the business owners who they're listening to this, they don't know where to start with agent ops. Is there a tool or process you would recommend for them to take their baby steps?
So I think that, yes. So in terms of the leadership, I understand that some of this is a little in the weeds and maybe I'm getting a little too deep too fast. I think the number one thing to think about in terms of business leadership is this new emerging idea of tokenomics, the economics around tokens. I think that's going to be a principal foundation because, HR suddenly, let's take wireless or voice over IP. There's certain technological improvements that the company doesn't want to not have wireless in their corporate offices. They want to have their staff using voice over IP or a website. In the early 90s, everyone had to have a website, right? So now I think everyone is going to have access to agents that help their staff build product, build code, build things, right? So those are build agents in terms of Claude Code. You've heard of some of these, tools. But how are you going to budget this? How are you going to look at OpEx versus CapEx? Are you going to maybe buy some hardware up front so your staff can use local private models? So it's more of a CapEx expenditure? Or are you comfortable with maybe providing a cloud provider and it's more of an ongoing OpEx expenditure? These are discussions I think you should be having with your CISO and CTO and all of the people in your board. In terms of practical getting started, I know this is going to sound scary to maybe some people, but I truly believe it's so easy and democratized. Look at the GitHub spec kit. So if you just Google spec kit and follow the instructions, at Cisco Live, I had network engineers build an educational video game using the spec kit. Now, these are network engineers. They're not video game coders.
Yeah.
But they took the 45 minutes to follow the process with a bit of guidance, and 4 or 5 people built real video games that were educational networking topics. How to do subnetting in a video game. So maybe you as a leader could just do some fun project just to see the process in action, and then talk to your leaders, talk to your directors, talk to your senior engineers, and see if they are interested in adopting it after you provide them access to a corporate approved LLM. Jen, I think the biggest concern for business leaders right now is shadow AI.
Yep. And
right? We went through a phase of shadow IT where customers maybe got their own wireless access point or were using cloud services that were unapproved. Think of that with AI, though. They're all tabbing over to their personal ChatGPT account and they're pasting in some email body, help me get the response to this. That could be very scary, right? So we need to get in front of this, right?
Being proactive, of course.
And let's get a little bit more into governance, because your background with the Parliament of Canada has given you kind of quite a bit of experience with dealing with highly regulated, environments with technology and implementation. How does this translate for you in terms of insights into how businesses should be governing AI within their organizations? You've given some examples, but I'd like to dig just a little deeper into it based on your experience.
Sure. So there's it was a very highly regulated environment to the point where our requirements came in, right? We had to adhere to ITSG. They were government certified standards for how traffic flowed through the network, for example, right? I think right now those same boards are coming up with government specification and guidelines to guide enterprises on how to best adopt AI. It's going to differ by state. It's definitely going to differ by country. Here in Canada, the government is trying to nationalize an AI, so AI for All initiative by Mark Carney. We've also at the same time just banned social media and access to certain AI for children under 16. So you bring up a good point, Connor. Right? I think innovation outpaces the regulation, right? And I think that right now we're going to see the reactionary rubber band effect of regulation. We see it with communities raging against local data centers being put in their community, water, power, social policy. I think this is all going to trickle down into more restricted use of AI, but also sometimes maybe more open use of AI, right? More guidance and more governance. I think that you should establish an AI governance board in your organization. Maybe this is late. Maybe that's, everyone has already done that and it's passe.
No, John, that's great feedback. I feel like to me, some of the larger organizations that we meet with, they're the ones that haven't taken that first baby step of, to your point, let's have a board for this within our organization. Do we need to outsource that board? Do we need to hire? Are we hiring internally? What does that look like? These are you need to be having those conversations.
I think so, because yes, there's going to be a grassroots movement, but until there's some governance and guidance, it's kind of shadow AI, and we're not really sure if what I'm doing is approved or not. Whereas if there was a governance board, you put some capital into it, some human capital, some investment, some studies. Do I go with a cloud partner that can guarantee me privacy and they're not going to learn from my model? Do I have a data center with hardware that's capable of hosting these models, and is an open source model good enough? These are the conversations that our governance needs to have, because you're never going to get to agentic operations until some of these more first principles are handled, right?
Well, so John, let's stick to that. What are some of the lesser known benefits and risks there that business owners should be talking about when it comes to agent ops?
So I think, right, the protection of your intellectual property, the protection of what it is that you're selling, if you're in an enterprise, if you're in private enterprise, right, if the widget that you make, the secret sauce must be protected at all costs, right? So that partnership with I hate to mention names because there's a lot of choice out here. Anthropic, Azure, OpenAI, Gemini from Google. Right, there are options for corporate enterprise with agreements that they're not going to learn from your data. That might be the smoothest path, but now you've got to think of the OpEx and think of the scale and tokenomics and budgets and who gets the tokens and things like that nature. The alternative again is open source. And a lot of enterprise, it's kind of the buy build argument, Jenna, or cloud or on-prem argument all over again. Do I
Yeah,
invest in
history repeating itself.
History repeats itself. Do I invest in the hardware? But now, how often do I need to refresh that hardware? Do I have power? Do I have cooling? Do I have wiring? Do I have technical capability to build an AI fabric in my own data center? Maybe you do, and maybe it's a better least resistance path, because you know what, your governance says, it doesn't leave my premises. It's all on-prem. It's all in my data center. It's all private and close to me. And my employees have absolutely 100% unfettered, unrestricted access. There's no rate limits. There's no worry about OpEx. So now, do I have the best answer? I know this is, I don't want to bury the lead here. I think it really is going to come down to your business model. Tie AI back to your business model, right? So I think that may help guide it. But definitely, if maybe Jenna, you would know better than I, if there are enterprises out there without AI governance boards, and for me as an individual contributor, maybe that's my time to make a splash in my career, or pivot in my career, or move up the ladder, so to speak, and have more influence in my organization to say, no, listen, I feel I'm comfortable with AI, and I can contribute my voice to our enterprise's discussion about direction, about strategy, about investment. That's really good conversations to have, right? I mean, I think you become pretty invaluable if you become the AI SME in your organization, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think for business owners who are listening to this, just to grasp the larger significance of governance in this moment in AI, one of the most eye-catching, you mentioned tokenomics, a very eye-catching headline from this year in the past few months was there was an unnamed enterprise client who racked up a bill of $500 million in token usage in 1 month with Claude by providing the whole organization with Claude. People were just using it, not knowing that it costs money, that, the tokens, you can't just use it and use it and use it for free after you get the subscription. So they do charge. And so even on an enterprise level, there are business owners who are still do not have the governance in place to even realize, like, oh, this stuff costs money. These tokens are not free.
It sounds like your first cloud bill, right? Hang on, they told me this would be cheaper to put all this stuff in the cloud, right? Oh, well, what about your egress cost and this and that and all the other, right? Yes, that's
Adds
so
up.
$500 million. So if you're the enterprise that spent $500 million on tokens in 1 month, I'm available for 10% of that fee to consult you on your next month. Okay.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that, John.
I'm just seeing $500 million. If companies are throwing that kind of money around, I'll take a lot less than $500 million to put you on the right path to
Yeah.
AI governance, and that is wild. But I think it's undeniable when we look at the numbers of, and I'm not going to name these companies, but it is public statistics. The number of pull requests, the amount of code they're generating, and it's high quality code. It's tested, it's validated, moving to production. There's never been more code being generated ever in human history, right? And in terms of infrastructure, we're not that far behind in having agents closing the loop on network problems, and I think that's really exciting. So in terms of business ownership, when you're look at your company holistically. How can AI help your legal department, your HR department, your marketing department? Do you know that my marketing department at Itential, I feel like they're 35 years ahead of most enterprise networks in terms of their use of AI? I mean, I'm talking about blog posts, content, video, PowerPoints, getting our message out. So if the marketing department can embrace this, why are the most technical people in the company resistant and not embracing this? Now, I know it's fun to write your own code, and it's fun to do things at the command line in terms of my world. But I think that this is as equally fun, if that's what we're comparing this to. I also think there's a layer of abstraction here. I think that's the whole purpose of progress in computer science, is this idea of abstraction. Well, now even the code has been abstracted. Now, that's appealing to a lot of people. I'm not saying everyone, and maybe not all production code, but when I'm using Python and I say pip install a package, right? Have you ever pip installed a package in Python? Did
No.
you go to did you go to PyPy and read the source code of that package? Probably not, right? It's just an abstraction that you install the tool and you put, faith, whatever you want to call it, into the fact that the package is secure, it's stable, it does what it's advertised. Well, now we're abstracting the actual code. And in a specification, I describe I want an agent that's going to test interfaces on a network. Here's the MCPs and the tools you have access to, blah, 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 all in natural language. I press enter, I go through the spec kit. Suddenly I have a working agent. Now, do I need to read the code? It really depends on the situation. If I'm selling that agent, yes. If it's in production in my enterprise, probably someone should read the code. But if I'm just learning how to build an agent, or I want an agent that tests interfaces and it works all the time, some people, me included, are comfortable with that level of abstraction.
Yeah. So, John, I think that this is a great place to really end with a last question about what are your words of wisdom to those that have that barrier of fear and aren't as curious as, to your point, with the marketing department, that, they're leaps beyond where other marketing departments are because they've embraced this.
Here's the quote that I took out of Satya Nadella from Microsoft. He just wrote a piece called "A Frontier Without an Ecosystem is Not Stable." And he's talking about AI-driven economy in the future. The quote that I liked was, "Human capital does not become less valuable as token capital grows." Now, I know it's not my own wisdom, but I just saw that yesterday and I've been thinking about this and I've tried to incorporate it into my message. I think this is an augmentation. It's not a displacement. This is not dial up to high speed or plain old telephone to voice over IP or wired to wireless. This is a whole different thing. I don't think we can just write off AI as just another tool. I think it's far beyond a tool. A tool that can call other tools is not a tool. All right, we have to be clear about this. This is not just another protocol like SMTP that lets you send email, as impressive as email was. These agents can reason and take action on your behalf. Every one of us, I think, wants more free time, more time with our family, more time away from the keyboard. I think that these agents, I have 10 or 15 agents working for me all the time. There's a laptop here that's closed that you can't see. There's agents running on it right now doing things for me. While I'm filming this podcast, I'm achieving goals autonomously, and I trust it, right? So I think that's very powerful, and I'd like people to see this as an inspiration. I want to be the positive outcome. I want to be the soft landing. I want to be the nuclear power that fuels homes all around the world for clean energy, not the bomb that wipes out hundreds of thousands of people, right? That same capability, that same human technology, right? I think we're in a similar inflection point where there is moral issues, there is societal impact. But I can't, all of us need to come together and talk about it and expose it and try to find a positive outcome, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. John, thank you so much for leaving us with those words of wisdom. I'm going to have to play that back just because that was awesome. John, if someone wants to get in touch with you and learn more, follow your journey and your story, what is the best place for them to connect with you?
I would say on LinkedIn or on my YouTube channel, either or. There's also been several public appearances. I tried to make a channel called Public Appearances. This podcast will go in that channel. I also want to thank you both for taking a chance on AI early. This is a podcast that's been running for a while, and I'm sure that you've heard your fair share of slop comments and things like that. Don't let it get you down. There's always, right on that inflection point, we heard it about, why do I need apps on my phone? It's just a phone. I use it for phone calls.
Why do I need SEO? Why do I need social media? Why do I?
Right. So don't let them get you down. And I'd be more than happy to come back anytime. I know 30 minutes is pretty short, and this maybe is just a taste.
Yeah.
So let's continue this discussion in a few weeks.
We would love that. John, we're going to be back for round 2.
Okay. All right. I'm down.
Series.
Okay.
Fantastic. John, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jenna. Thanks, Connor. It's really nice to see you, and best of luck, everyone, on your AI journey.
Yeah, thanks for coming on Go AI.